Hello and welcome to Quays News. I'm Dan Keane.
And I'm Thomas Robertson. Here's what's coming up on the programme today.
Hundreds of protests in Manchester, but will it change the government's position on Gaza?
A Manchester bar fights for its future in court for the fourth time. The council keeps saying crank down the volume.
The largest flower wall in Europe is ready for business.
And it's nearly rugby league time. Salford Red Devils are in the building.
Well, yeah, once you get over it, then you move on from it. Then you start bringing new people in, you start getting excited about your new players. We've took everything out of stride, so we're pretty chilled and really excited to see the new players have a go at it.
Protests pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza have continued across Greater Manchester. This comes after the International Court of Justice has demanded Israel's right to protect itself against Hamas. Victoria Haynes reports.
Protests like this have been regularly happening across Greater Manchester. This weekend, hundreds of people took to the streets of Manchester city centre to show their support for the people of Gaza.
This is very much about standing with Palestine, showing solidarity for the incredible genocide that's going on in Gaza, and also what's going on in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, which is often not spoken about. We're here to show our disgust with the genocide.
Because obviously there's been a genocide going on in Gaza. This most recent onslaught began in October, but this is an issue that us Fight Racism, Fight Imperialism has been campaigning on since our organisation began in the 70s.
This comes after the International Court of Justice made an interim statement against South Africa's appeal for the conflict to be recognised as a genocide. A Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office spokesperson said, Israel has the right to defend itself against Hamas in line with international humanitarian law. Our view is that Israel's actions in Gaza cannot be described as a genocide. The British Foreign Secretary Lord David Cameron issued the following response to the Foreign Affairs Committee this month.
You're asking me specifically about the South African case. I don't think, our view is that Israel does have a right to defend itself, must act within international humanitarian law, should avoid civilian casualties, should do better on that grounds, but we don't believe that calling this genocide and claiming this as genocide is the right approach, and we don't agree with what South Africa is doing.
Despite this, passions are still running high across the city and indeed across the country, as people call for harsher restrictions for Israel.
The fate of a Manchester bar that has been in the centre of a noise complaint for 3 years remains uncertain. Despite a fourth court appearance, Night and Day Cafe is the city's northern quarter is a popular bar for music lovers. But the operators feel its future will be jeopardised if the order to limit the volume is not lifted. Max Earnshaw is at the venue for us now.
Good afternoon. The ongoing court case in which Manchester City Council has taken Night and Day Cafe to court started way back in 2021. That was when a noise abatement notice was served against the venue following a noise complaint from a nearby flat. This is the fourth time the parties have attended Manchester Magistrates Court, with neither party seemingly satisfied with the various resolutions offered in the out-of-court settlements after the previous 3 hearings. Night and Day Cafe is undeniably a popular venue for live music and for club nights. The Arctic Monkeys, the Manic Street Preachers and Stockport's very own Blossoms have played intimate gigs here. Night and Day argue that the business would simply not be sustainable if they complied with the notice and turned the music down. The council, on the other hand, argue that they rarely serve these notices and they rarely prosecute people. The current hearing is in its final day today, but it's not known when District Judge Margaret McCormack will make her verdict, or if, in fact, it will bring this 3-year saga to an end.
This month, Salford artist Chelsea Davis opened her first solo expedition at the Langworthy Cornerstone. Chelsea hopes that her exhibition can help to give Salford kids the opportunity for careers in the arts. But it's not just artists like Chelsea who see the importance of the arts.
An acoustic performance for an artist in tune with her community. This exhibition is personal for Chelsea Davis, and Langworthy Cornerstone has embraced this Salford artist.
I lived really close to here when I was a kid. Art's so important because I think when you come from somewhere like a council estate, it's not something that's always pushed on kids. It's not something that's taught in school, and I think the more popular it gets, it will. But I think when it comes down to arts and culture, it's so much more important to push it into the children in school. To do it somewhere that meant a lot to me as a child has been absolutely amazing.
Salford past and present features in the exhibition, and Chelsea directly addresses modern issues like the cost of living.
I think arts and culture are imperative to the human experience. Arts and culture funding historically has not been great, particularly during times of austerity. I'm a teacher as well as a counsellor, and obviously I see the impact in the school that I work in, but I see it out in the community as well. And inevitably, things like arts and culture that are seen as the nice-to-haves end up disappearing.
If art has not exactly disappeared, it's definitely shrunk. Salford Council's seen more than £222 million of cuts in 14 years. In a decade, the city's population rose by 15.4%, nearly 40,000 people. More people and more council tax income, but more pressure on services. Schools, social care and protection of vulnerable residents have become the priority.
Historically, Salford might have had a little bit of a bad reputation, so antisocial behaviour and other things like that, but a lot of the time I think that's because our young people are not engaged in the things that they love. So having arts and culture out in the city, taking it to where people live, engaging people, getting people on board with our vision to make Salford a city of makers and creators is absolutely imperative.
It might seem a lofty claim to think that these canvases might cut crime, but Salford has always had a love affair with the arts, and plenty here hope it can only make this community more connected. Josh Brooks, Quays News, Langworthy.
This week, Rishi Sunak announced plans to ban disposable vapes. He says it'll combat the endemic impact on children. Jason Darby has been to Salford Shopping Centre to see what local residents thought of the plans.
Vaping is becoming ever more popular, but it's the rise of disposable vapes that have given the government cause for concern. So with a ban on the way, what does that actually mean for people who buy them?
I'm for that actually, because obviously nicotine is not something that children should be smoking, and I feel he's doing that based off the kids, based off the children. So it makes sense, but at the same time, for businesses who sell them, it doesn't make sense for them.
I reckon if they do ban them, then I'll be able to find someone that's going to sell them illegally, and I doubt there'll be too many consequences to me buying them via that way.
The main issue clearly is around consequences. The shop owner we spoke to said that the government has allowed it to get out of hand with really poor regulation, a lack of restrictions and the accessibility. And it was quite shocking how easy it was to actually buy this. Just £5, very few checks, and I was able to get my hands on one of these.
Instead, and I feel it's not going to change anything for me, because obviously I'll just come to the shop still and buy it because I need to buy it, so no change for me.
Labour says it supports the ban, but has criticised why it's taken so long to put in place. The ban's expected to be enforced by early 2025. Jason Darby, Quays News.
In other news, a new clinical building is planned for Salford Crescent. The aim is to enhance the training of healthcare professionals with a more hands-on learning experience, according to the University of Salford.
This is the Mary Seacole car park, where the University of Salford plan to build their new clinical building. The 3-storey building will sit next door to Salford Crescent railway station and adjacent to the A6. As part of the university's School of Health and Society, the project will aim to boost training for new generations of healthcare professionals and give them real-life experience on site. The university has hopes of playing a key role in tackling health and social inequalities with this new project by providing public services on site, reducing waiting lists, increasing accessibility and creating terraces to promote well-being. The proposed plans appear to be going down well with students at the School of Health and Society.
It's going to be much more easier in placement, but struggling. Yeah, I think it's going to be.
That's great. In more hyper-realistic setting, we make you feel better prepared for when you have to deal with real life and whatnot. So yeah, personally I think it will come in really handy.
These plans contribute towards a wider development framework for the Salford Crescent area that will see an estimated £2.5 billion worth of investment. In a statement, Vicky Halliwell, Deputy Dean of the School of Health and Society at the University of Salford, said, The new clinic building will provide world-class teaching and research facilities for use by colleagues, students and people needing health and wellbeing services. We already have a worldwide reputation for the quality of our healthcare courses, with our students getting real-life experience from our experts in their fields. The new site will help us build on that work and is central to our wider plan to reduce health and social inequalities and to support the integrated care system by tackling workforce challenges.
A life-size statue of Jesus on a crucifix has been stolen from St Luke's Church in Salford. Reporter Christian Allen visited the site.
A statue of Jesus on a crucifix has been stolen from outside a church in Salford. The cross and two statues of an angel and St Bernadette were taken from St Luke's on Swinton Park Road. In a statement, parishioner Paul Ashton said, "The statue of Jesus on a crucifix was in our old church and meant so much to us." The parish are urging any potential witnesses to come forward. Christian Allen, Quays News.
A new rugby league season dawns, and after a difficult pre-season where the club were placed into special measures, Salford Red Devils hosted a media day at Salford University. Ahead of the start of the new Rugby Super League season, the Salford Red Devils hosted their media day at Salford University's Media City campus. After a warm weather training camp in the Algarve, new signings Jerm Meller and Cade Cust have had an immediate impact on assistant head coach Kurt Haggerty and Oliver Partington.
I think they signed well in the off-season. We've got obviously Cade Cust in, Joe Mellor, and it's they're all assets to our team, and they've linked in really well, and they're a massive part of our team going forward.
Oh well, Cade's come in and played a completely different style. He's played at Wigan, so he's had to learn a lot of new things. So he's done really well, fitted into our systems. I've previously coached Joe before, but as a halfback, so he's played at hooker for his last couple of weeks, which he's found a niche for. So he'll come and play hooker for us. So I know exactly what we get with Joe. He's tough, he's resilient, very talented, and he's certainly a threat to defences. We're excited to see Joe. Head coach Paul Rowley has put on an advert for new players, with the club currently short of a full squad, but the pair remain confident of their chances this season.
We're not worrying about it too much. We know what we've got on the pitch will be good enough to do the job and get some wins. So it's just waiting for our team to get back full. And as I say, we're not the biggest squad, not the biggest funds or whatever. But we're a passionate club and we've got passionate fans to back us up.
Well, if we've got 17 on the field, we've got 17 capable players. We'll be all right. We'll be okay.
After narrowly missing out on the playoffs last season, the club will aim for a year of consolidation in the Super League.
And hopefully we get into that playoff at the end of the year and hopefully win some of this year. Me,
Paul and Kristen certainly close to win, so we'll be aiming to win and win as much as we can. If we get in the playoffs, fantastic.
The Red Devils will face Leeds Rhinos in their first match of the season at Headingley on the 16th of February. Dan Keane, Quays News.
And now time for a floral feast for the eyes, as following completion last week, Salford can now boast the largest living wall in Europe.
Tucked between busy office buildings on Stanley Street in Salford, built on the site of a derelict car park, now stands the largest living wall in Europe.
The Eden building is 12 stories high and is covered in 36,000 square feet of foliage on the outside. There are 350,000 plants made up of 32 different species, making it one of the most sustainable office buildings in all the UK.
The new development, costing an estimated £36 million, will lower local temperatures, remove air pollutants, and has the capability to run on 100% renewable energy. 2 law firms have already agreed to move in. Graham Orchison from TLT Solicitors said, "Eden's groundbreaking approach will lead the way for future workplaces that are better for our people and the planet. Work on the interior will begin now that the construction of the building has been finished." A virtual tour shows us what the inside will look like upon completion, ahead of businesses moving in this summer. Josh Day, Quays News.
Now listen up, theatre lovers. Manchester actress Barbara Diesel is taking her one-woman play, Dear Eliza, on tour across the UK. And what better place to start than right here in Salford?
The King's Arms in Salford is filled with anticipation ahead of opening night.
Quite excited to see that, especially the themes as well. Mental health is something I struggle with personally, so I think it would be good for people like myself who want to see something that they might be able to relate to.
Dear Eliza.
Dear Eliza explores a friendship under the strain of mental ill health. The creator, Barbara Diesel, invited us to the dress rehearsal ahead of its debut. Why did you pick Salford as the start of the tour?
So I'm based in Manchester. I originally did this production as part of the Greater Manchester Fringe Festival, and it made sense to kind of start again here. So I got in touch with the King's Arms, and then they got in touch with me and said, well, actually, we are doing a highlights kind of festival for people who either won awards in the Greater Manchester Fringe Festival or who were shortlisted. And I was shortlisted for the Best Newcomer Award. I had never written anything before. I've been acting since a very young age, so that's not a problem for me. I don't mind standing in front of people and performing, but showing my own writing was incredibly vulnerable for me.
The theme of this play is around mental health. Were there any challenges around that?
It can be challenging. It can be quite tiring. Definitely, Helen and I had some times in rehearsals where I really felt like I was having to slog through it, but it's all about finding those moments of relief, and it is a really serious topic to discuss. It's quite serious to talk about. I think there's something really rewarding about it being a one-woman show. There's something to be said about the fact that the character is a completely unreliable narrator. You only have her word against everything else. You don't know what the other circumstances are, you only know her opinion.
After its Salford debut, the play goes on to Bristol, Liverpool and London. Alex Mackay, Quays News.
And that's all for now. Thanks for watching Quays News. Goodbye.